Just because I may present more femme doesn't mean that I'm any less they, them.
Just because I present more male doesn't make you any less fish whale. Howdy partners, I know we're coming in hot on this one, but trust me, we've only just begun. You're in for a treat this time, as you are every time. Now before the entertainment starts, I'm going to precede that with some entertainment. And by that I mean me talking about myself. So in that video about XXX tentacles, I wasn't lying when I said I wasn't slacking, and this would have been up sooner if it wasn't for my whole getting a car situation. So what I mean by car situation is about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I decided 100% that I wanted a new car, and up until maybe the day before I actually got the car I have, I was set on a 2017 Charger RT. Figure I couldn't go wrong. V8, it's a Charger. It was lovely. I found this one right here that was it wasn't a pretty good deal. It was an amazing deal. Turns out it's a piece of shit on the interior. And since I gave him a day's notice before I went and test drove it, he had an opportunity to just cover all that shit up on me. And honestly, it's quicker for me to just tell you that there was a lot wrong with it than to start listing things. Like, this guy had every opportunity to sell me a piece of garbage for more than it was worth, and he would not do anything to make that sale. He wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't give me a fair valuation on my trade-in. He couldn't budge on the price a dime. He couldn't replace the tire with the nail in it, give me a spare tire, fix the vent, clean the seats. Nothing. And get this asshat doubled the income that I wrote down on the paper so that the bank would buy the deal. So what that means is the bank thinks that I'm making this much. So that way, when I go to apply for financing on a different car at a different dealership, it's going to look like I either lied on the first one or somehow in like 3 days I just made 50% of what I was making then. So in conclusion, fuck that guy, and if I knew I had a significant audience in Arkansas, I would make a big deal about the dealership's name and the salesman. That's why when you come to Arkansas to buy a Chrysler vehicle, you go to Superior Dodge in Conway and you ask for Cameron. So that way, when I go to get my SRT, I get a sweet deal because I referred you. Boom. All other bullshit aside, if you haven't been on my Instagram, I got a brand new 2018 Challenger. I drove it off the lot with 33 miles on it. Is it as fast as a Hellcat? No, not even close. Is it fast? Yes. Even though I could talk about both of these things for hours, enough about me and my car. Shall we get into the meat and potatoes of this one? So, due to the success on this channel of me roasting whatever you call this shit, we are back on whatever you call this shit. I can't call it Tumblr because it's not from Tumblr this time, but make no mistake about it, it is definitely still in that realm. And damn it, that eliminates a really good keyword for views. So as you can tell, this is a video telling us why gender pronouns are important. And I do agree. He, him, she, her is very important. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that's not the road we're taking here. This is one of those videos produced by some company trying to connect with millennials and young people, not realizing that this format fails every single time. When it's a group of people in front of a green screen like this, with decent production quality, talking about some bullshit, it will fail. Stop trying to make these companies. It doesn't work. Look at the dislike ratio on any one of these videos. Why do you think this is a good idea? I mean, I don't really care, you're making my job easier, which is cool with me, but still. Also, why is this hairstyle so popular? 60% of the people in this video have a comb over. Can we please get a little intuitive here? Change up the hair. Where's the gender neutral mullet? The mullet of inclusion, starring Eugene from The Walking Dead.
Just because I may present more femme doesn't mean that I'm any less they, them.
Also, I don't understand why so many of these groups have to have fun, rhymey sayings.
You know what, that thing where you're eating a meal, but you're not really eating a meal, you're just kind of picking at food on the counter?
Yeah, I know what she means here. Like I'll make a steak, and then I'll put it on a plate, and then like, I'll just sort of pick at it, and then when the plate's empty, I put it in the dishwasher. It's people call it eating.
My family and I were doing that one night, and I just kind of looked at them and said, hey guys, I'm non-binary. I don't have a gender.
From eating to getting disowned. What a turn of events. How does that go exactly? I'd love to know. Hey guys, you know when I was born and the doctor declared me a girl? Yeah, no, I'm not.
In my opinion, gender is a universe. It is a broad spectrum of planets and stars and sky that truly cannot be contained into a binary.
Time out. There's no way this person actually compared genders to outer space. Space is literally infinitely more interesting and important than genders. Any way you look at it. How is there planets and galaxies of genders? That makes no sense. It's not that deep, Chief. There's literally the square root of 4 number of genders aside from trannies and whatnot. It's not that, no. A little spoiler alert coming at you. If your claim to being an interesting person starts and stops at gender identity, you are not an interesting person. It's the same thing with politics. If you're conservative or liberal, and that is how you identify yourself, as a conservative or a liberal, not as an individual, buddy, no one wants to talk to you. I feel like I reiterate this every other video, but for new watchers, and hopefully there's a ton of you, I'm not conservative or liberal. I'd say I'm in the middle, but being in the middle of extreme conservatives and extreme liberals still sounds pretty shitty. So, I don't know what I am.
My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and that's a non-negotiable. And they were all kind of like, okay.
She is just so passionate about this. It's lovely to see. Aside from all this being just bleh, that's what it is. Bleh, it's that. I don't know. It's non-negotiable. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just inconsiderate. How confusing would it be to use they, them, theirs in a conversation about an individual? Imagine cops following these pronouns. Hey, Chief, good news. I located the suspect and I just apprehended them. Deputy, we only call for the arrest of 1 suspect. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They are in custody as we speak. How many are in custody, Deputy? Just 1 suspect, sir. What? It's kind of like a modern day who's on first.
I think one of the main reasons pronouns are so important is because other than our name, it's one of the main ways that people identify and call us.
The reason it's so non-interesting is because it applies to 0.01% of the population, even if that.
My pronouns are personally very important to me.
Hey, I didn't know Rice Gum was going to be in this.
Growing up, enculturated into kind of a system that really subscribes to toxic masculinity, I was always uncomfortable with being called dude, what's up, man. I was so bad at dapping people up, how guys do that whole like that thing. I was so bad at that, and it just I felt very alienated every time someone would do that.
Dude, are you serious, man? It's not that serious, bro. Have you ever seen someone so socially awkward that they had to change their gender? Now I have.
So when someone identifies with a pronoun, they're essentially taking their little piece of that broad universe and identifying with that. And so in using their correct pronouns, we're validating that, yes, you are right in your identity and you are important and we're respecting you.
I don't hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but making sure everyone feels validated isn't at the top of human priority. It's actually not even close. If you're going to do this gender stuff, you got to be doing it for you. Pick your gender, don't announce it on social media, and just live happily with your identity. Not caring about validation from others, that's the only way you can do it, because everyone is going to disregard your shit as baloney. Although I do like a bologna sandwich. But if I made a case for bologna sandwiches, I'm not going to get disliked to the soul dimension. And that's what really matters.
Coming into terms with my gender queer identity has been one of the most challenging but also rewarding things that I've done.
I think finding an earring as long as your nose might have been more difficult. Look at that thing. It's so unnecessary. You could have gotten rid of 85% of that piece and you wouldn't have looked like a goof. Maybe it was a regular hoop earring, but he fell on his way to the set trying to dap someone up, and it just kind of deformed into a sad safety pin.
Laverne Cox kind of famously said, misgendering a trans person is an act of violence. And it is. It's an act of psychological violence. It's a denial of somebody's personhood and a complete refusal to acknowledge their identity, whether intentional or not.
That's not how attacking someone works. If I'm unaware that you are them, and I call you she, like 99.9% of the female population goes by, I'm not accountable for you feeling attacked. Until the police start issuing warrants for assault on pronouns, no one's taking it that seriously. If you are so emotionally weak that you feel attacked when someone calls you the wrong word, That's something you gotta work out, dog. That's not our problem.
And so it is something that is entirely wrapped around our everyday lives.
I don't know how many times you have to say it before these people get it. No one cares. At all. Even if somehow you could scientifically prove gender was a spectrum and not just male, female, or something in between, still nobody's gonna care. Nobody cares. But yeah, at what point do you rethink your message if literally nobody can take it serious aside from those involved? Like gay people, for example. Makes sense that some humans are wired to be attracted to the same sex. Okay, everyone with a brain can wrap their head around that. Bisexual people, once again, not a hard concept to grasp. Trans people. Okay, if you want to go ahead and get different parts surgically, that's all you. Kind of approaching weird territory, but it's not totally out there per se. Jews. Now this one is just bewildering to me. Black people.
And I know personally when I get misgendered, by strangers it's one thing, but it's especially painful when it's people who are close to you. So when my parents misgender me, it's a knife in my heart because they're the people whose opinions matter more to me than anybody else's.
Your parents misgendered you? They knew what gender you were before you even knew what gender was. I mean, you still don't know what gender is apparently, but you get what I mean.
And not knowing how to combat it. It is constant, and it is such a prevalent part of our society that being misgendered happens countless times in a day, and that builds up really quickly, and it can really be difficult for a person to hear over and over again because it invalidates your identity over and over and over again.
If your identity is just being invalidated left, right, and center every day, get a new identity. What you're doing now obviously isn't working.
And I also don't like that people call them their preferred pronouns because it's also not a preference. It's who they are. You need to use those pronouns. It's literally an extension of my arm or my leg. It's just as a part of me as a vital organ. My identity, although you can't see it, still needs to be validated just as much as you would validate the fact that I have 5 fingers or 5 toes.
What do I even say to that? You see this kind of shit online and you think, okay, well that's outlandish and no one actually believes this stuff, let alone is that stereotypical activist figure. But I got 4 of them right here. Seriously guys, get a fucking job. You need something in your life if pronouns are the most important thing to you. You need something. Go get a brand new white 2018 car. I promise you, you'll be constantly stressing about keeping it clean, that this pronoun hoopla won't even matter to you in a week. Then when you realize you get 15 miles to the gallon, you'll trade it in for a black Prius and you get your pronouns back. That said, this concludes this one. My new pronouns are Challenger and Challenger Self, and next year when I trade up, I will change them to SRT and SRT Self. Either way, you're welcome for watching. Drive safe.